Hello, everyone. This is so marvelous to see us all together back for the Consciousness Academy Club series and the series that are devoted for spreading the consciousness. So regardless, whichever part of the world you're from, just come and let's a little bit breathe together with just rising of consciousness around and spreading it around the world. Today's session is very intriguing. What it is, the flow, what we will know today. For some of you, definitely you know, but for some, this is very interesting and unique topic. And I'm sure it's very, very important. Today's speaker, Malik Palamar from Switzerland with us. Several words about Malik. Malik is a certified flow trainer from the Flow Research Collective in Los Angeles. What today's presentation will be about science and art of flow. And as usual, I would say, questions that you're having would be as many as possible answered. You can put them in the chat or send them in the WhatsApp, wherever. And as much time is left, there will be a Q&A time. For now, with this, I'm giving the mic to Malik and let's flow.
Thank you very much. So hi everyone, lovely to see you here from all over the world. That's really incredible. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you very much for these very kind words. Thank you, Natasha. So yes, that's a very good question actually. What is this flow? And with that being said, I'm gonna start the session here. Sharing my screen and already with an invitation to you. So I want to invite you today to actually, since the topic is flow, we want to experience flow. It's nice to hear something, it's nice to learn something, it's nice to have new information, but it's even more important and interesting to actually experience the whole thing. And this is also gonna be an opportunity where we can actually have an experiment together to create a space which we already have here. But just, I'm gonna ask you really to support this space here by being more active, allowing more flow, allowing to flow together. So I will be also opening the mic from time to time as the presentation allows, and I'm just going to ask you then really to share some things, well-formed thoughts, questions if necessary, and in a disciplined and assertive manner. So like for 2 or 3 minutes, not to hold too much space, and then to continue further. I'm also going to ask you like to stay a bit active, not to sit all the time. This is also how you can support the space to have a higher energy. And also I'm going to ask you to actually have something to write. So why it is important to have something to write, and why it is important not to write down what you see in the presentation? Because that's just going to block you from flow and block you from understanding what I'm about to share with you. Share those things that is intriguing you, some questions, and especially your reflections. Write those things down. Don't mind about the presentation. If anyone wants, I can share with you the presentation. Okay. So I'm also going to ask you, like, invite you to empty your cup. That's very important. Start with the Zen mind. Start with a beginner's mind. And Aristotle have this very beautiful quote where he says, a mark of an educated mind is being able to exercise a thought without accepting it. And Khalid likes to add without rejecting it. And I would say that's also important to have today in mind. If you really want to know something about flow in depth, then empty your cup so you will be able to really grasp it on a deeper level. Also, I'm gonna invite you to listen with your whole being. So be present here. And I'm gonna share also a tool with you, since I'm also a breath coach. It's a very, it's an elegant tool, very simple, but very effective. That's gonna help you to actually experience the whole presentation, not with this not very cognitively, but also with a part in you which is more intuitive and can grasp certain things better. If not, you will just miss many things. Okay, so that's just quickly about the duple. It's a very simple breathing technique where you basically do the following. Just close your eyes, and you do just 2 bursts of inhale through the nose, and it's looking like that. Do it with me. Inhale, stop, feel your body, and exhale. Let's do 2 more of them. Again. Hold, feel your body, and exhale slowly. One last. Inhale, hold, feel your body, and slowly exhale. The duple is a very elegant tool, actually, that I'm sharing here with you to be able to change your state. That's actually the goal of breathing. And you will see later why there is a link to flow. It will actually allow you to flow easier, because it allows you also to empty a bit your mind. So that was a kind of intro and preparation. So I'm inviting you all to support this space by that, and we will see where, how this experiment is actually then going. I'm going to start with an untypical question. Why flow? Why flow, and why flow matters so much for the future? There is one thing about the future. The future is faster than you think. The last 100 years we had development as a civilization. The same development we will do actually in the next 10 years. So what does that mean more concretely? More than 50% of the things that you know today will not exist anymore. And if this actually doesn't trigger you, doesn't concern you, doesn't take your breath away, then most probably you haven't thought about it well. It's going to be really a disruptive time, but it's also a very exciting time. And here's also the link actually that I want to make to flow. We have a huge development as a species, as human beings. We have seen our potential just being discovered more and more. It's very interesting. We have a huge tradition of experiencing the inner world that the human being is, and since also we have the scientific method and are researching about the human being, we haven't actually answered all the questions. And it seems to be that not only in the outer space, but also in the inner space, in this inner world that we are, the more we research, the more questions we have. So, and here is a link to flow. Flow is actually at the core of the human being, at the core of this hidden potential, unlimited potential that human beings have. And there is really a very interesting research in this field. It's related to flow, and it's called the rise of Superman. And I don't mean any kind of movies or novels. No, it's about the Superman, Superwoman within you. There is the link to flow, and also actually how we as a species can flow together. And even like you see here, maybe I don't know if it is very clear. This is a bird formation here, where birds are swarming together. Later, I'm going to present you how it is actually possible, most probably only in flow, that human beings can actually swarm together, but only in flow. So that was about flow, but the question is also, where do we find actually flow? Because there is one thing about flow: it's too close to be recognized and too far to be reached. We find flow in environments like extreme sports. You see here, this is rafting. That's, by the way, my sport. You see here a mountain biker here on this hill. And so if you ask how he actually wants to get down there, it's not that he wants to jump. No, he will take his way down this rock, down this hill, actually surrounding it. We see flow where else? In a culture of innovation. You see here, this is a car. It's a new car. It's not only a car anymore. It's more like a living being. That's a concept car of Mercedes-Benz. So where do we see flow? Well, everywhere where there is innovation, like at Google, Mercedes-Benz. We see it very much in Silicon Valley. And I will talk a bit more about Silicon Valley. We see it also in arts, as you see here. This is a very beautiful example of group flow. Another very interesting example that some people might not like, but it is what it is. I have here also a picture of the Navy SEALs. And this is also a group formation where they find themselves out of their own research. And we have so much data today, thanks to their research about group flow. So I want to just help you to understand what actually flow is and for what flow is. Quickly, besides what Natasha said about me, I'm a certified flow trainer from the Flow Research Collective. I'm a certified breathwork instructor. So Stig Severinsen is someone who did hold the breath for 22 minutes, pushing the boundaries of anything that science thought is possible, and proving that the human being is capable of things that were unknown till today. So he's also someone who is able, with certain techniques, especially through breath work, to decrease his heart rate and to stop it entirely without any danger for his life. I'm also, I have a bachelor in Islamic sciences. I've studied the classical Islamic sciences from its resources. So I'm also a paradigm challenger. What is a paradigm challenger? I'm a traveler between liminal spaces here. So here I'm doing my breath work in actually with cold exposure. Here I was in the deepest pool known 2 years ago. It's a pool that was the deepest one, 40 meters. And it was there where I actually experienced, in this depth, I experienced flow And I experienced a state that I never had before. In this depth, where I find myself experiencing something which I would just call a kind of synchronicity, and finding myself in a silence that I never experienced before. And I would simply describe it as I was actually in the womb of the universe. Those are the liminal spaces that I like to travel. Why? Because I am from my nature, I'm a paradigm challenger. What does that mean? I'm someone who believes very strongly there is out there is objective reality and truth, but we live in our subjective worlds. In other words, we find ourselves in our own self-built matrix, and it's not that someone from outside is actually controlling us. No, it's much more that we build the matrix for ourselves, and others, they are contributing to the control or agency that we have. So in those spaces, I find really, in those liminal spaces, I would call them also a kind of places where you lose and find yourself again. That was my experience that I had here in through breath work. Sometimes parts of you, and sometimes the entire personality that you are. So, and then you really find yourself again. This is something that I want also to share with you, not actually to show off so much to impress you, but more just to express what is actually possible and what the human being is capable of. One last thing here. I'm an entrepreneur, passionate. Paradigm Holistic is my company. So you might also see why I name it actually that way. But let's come back to this question. What is actually flow? What is this thing that is too close to recognize sometimes and too far to find? Let me start with a definition here. So a scientific definition, since the presentation is also named The Science and the Art of Flow. So don't complain, you've been warned. We will come up now with scientific definitions. And basically, the definition in science, one of those very simple, elegant definitions is that flow is an optimal state of consciousness where we feel our best and where we perform our best. Simply, that was the scientific definition. I find it really very elegant and giving much more clarity about what flow isn't and what flow actually is. And we're still like trying to grasp this flow and getting it closer so that we really can experience it. Like I said in the beginning. What is flow also? My own definition is that flow is actually an intrinsic peak performance. It's coming from inside. It's not something that you acquire, that you actually have to hustle. It's an intrinsic peak performance where human beings are hardwired for flow. It's also a state where you are engaged in something, where you become what you are doing, and where you lose actually the sense of self. And why this is also a huge benefit for flow, I will come to that later. I would also call it a kind of synchronicity of emotion, cognition, and action. So giving this definition, you might already have some situations where you found yourself in flow. You didn't consider it as flow. Let me tell you also where flow is also underneath. We have individual flow, like this optimal state of consciousness where we feel our best and perform our best, this intrinsic peak performance as an individual. And you already saw pictures there, like being in an environment in extreme sports or in arts, or creating anything big and meaningful to you. That's individual. But there is also intrapersonal flow. What is that? Simply, one of the oldest forms of flow actually is a meaningful conversation, where two people come together, have a conversation, have a deep conversation, and where they lose track of time. And they found themselves like 2 hours later in such a relieving state, and seeing for them, actually, it was like half an hour subjectively, but it's already like 2 hours past. They lose totally track of time and environment. So this is intrapersonal flow. We have also group flow, like I showed in the pictures before. This artists actually on stage. It's not possible actually to perform those things in this synchronicity as they do without flow. The Navy SEALs, for example, they have their entire research budget dedicated to group flow, not to individual flow. They are not interested in individual flow. That's very interesting. And we have also another form of flow, communitas. What is communitas? Where we find actually big groups of people, like in a concert, for example, or in a football stadium, where you see those people, they are doing actually this so-called La Ola wave all together. This is something that is in a state, in a flow state, but on a large scale. This is also flow. We wouldn't recognize that, but that's actually flow underneath. And something also very interesting, we have flow cross species. What does that mean? That means simply that we can be in flow with animals. So when you see actually a group of hunters on horses with dogs hunting another animal, they are in flow altogether. And it wouldn't be possible without flow. Actually, they would all be in their way, and there wouldn't be possible actually to do this hunt together in this synchronized way. So that's also something very interesting. And you see here how flow actually brings us together, and also with the animals. Let's go further with exploring what flow actually is. On this chart here, you see something very interesting, and this is dedicated to the godfather of flow. We cannot talk about flow without mentioning actually Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He passed away this year, and he's the godfather of flow. And one of his models that explain actually what flow is this so-called challenge, skills, balance. And when you see all those, this spectrum here of states, you see flow here. And that's the place of flow actually. Flow is happening there where our challenge meets the skill level. If the challenge is too high, we are just over aroused and we will not be able to perform in flow. If the challenge is too low or the skill is too low, we'll find ourselves in relaxation, boredom, or apathy, but never be able to perform in flow. I'm opening here some loops. Later we'll see I will close them all and it will make much more sense. So let's come a bit closer to flow. How does flow actually feels? There are 4 signature characteristics that lie underneath flow, and they're called the stare. What is stare? Stands for selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. Selflessness is the state where the normal self of self disappears. So, and to speak a bit on a level of neuroscience, it's just simply when upstairs gets quiet. The frontal lobe is shut down, and the frontal lobe is actually the place of the inner critics and the ego, and this is completely shut down. So there is a state of selflessness. It's a kind of small inflow. We go through an ego death temporarily. It's also this this timelessness. A normal sense of time gets a bit distorted. We have a kind of time dilation. We experience time in a totally different way. When we enter flow, especially in a macro flow state, we enter the so-called deep now. Time gets distorted. We don't feel the time of flow like we usually feel it, as I described also in the intrapersonal flow between 2 people. And there is also another very important signature here, the effortless effort, this effortlessness. So effortless effort, it means nothing else than we are actually performing something. But since we merge with what we are doing, the effort doesn't feel like effort anymore. It's coming intrinsically from inside. It's flowing out of us. And last but not least, the richness. The richness, all aspects of performance, both mental and physical, go through the roof. We can actually so this is what I call the synchronicity of emotion and cognition, and of course action. We have access to thinking and connecting the dots in a way that we usually do not have, and even are not able to grasp totally once we come out of flow. This is the richness on information. I was talking recently with a lady. She called that, interestingly, she said, this is the state in flow where I am downloading. And I would say it's pretty right what she said. It's a kind of downloading. It's not like coming somewhere from here that we're putting things together. No, it's going above. So with that being said, I think flow is now a bit more clear. Now let's see at the facts what flow actually also can give us. You see here a couple numbers. 500% is in flow, in a macro flow. I want to emphasize that in a macro flow state, we are able to achieve a productivity of 500%. What is 500%? So I have a very plastic example for you. If you imagine yourself, you go to work from Monday to Friday, take Saturday, Sunday off, but you're not in flow. You're working your usual day and your usual pace. In flow, you go to work on Monday, take Tuesday to Sunday off, and you do the same amount of work like in 5 days. Sounds crazy, but that's what you are capable of. And you didn't know. Maybe. That's also one reason why some people, not authors, including myself, being able to write a book. I'm not an author. Writing a book within on a weekend, within 2 days. While other authors, they have a writer's block whatsoever over months. So they didn't actually get the knowledge that you're getting here in the CA Club. That's your great advantage here. Another number here, 430%. What is that? It's increasing the creativity by 430%. Able to create things that outside of flow is not possible in its complexity, and also to grasp in its complexity. 270%, and this is also very significant, especially for the people here in the CA Club. I know most of you are visiting multiple courses. In flow, we are able to learn 270% faster. Those numbers are well-researched numbers. This is also flow. And maybe also to get a bit back to the beginning. Why flow? Here, among others, we have an answer. Why flow and why it will matter in a very disruptive time that is coming more and more. Now we want actually to experience and answer the question, what is flow, and go from what is flow to how I can flow. So we have this interesting research from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and I call them the 8 pathways to flow, according to the godfather of flow. The first one is complete concentration on the task. And this is very important, and it's very significant in this time that we're living today. In the 21st century, which is scientifically known as an elongated distraction, it is not possible to flow if you don't follow the basic principle of flow. And this is flow follows focus. If you don't guard your attention, you will not be able to flow and achieve this 500%, this 430%, this 270%. You will just be blocked from flow. Another very important thing here is a pathway, is clarity. So Mihai Csikszentmihalyi named it that way. Clarity of goals and reward in mind and immediate feedback. I would say feedback is here even like so significant that it deserves to be an extra point here. Immediate feedback, beside clarity, is hugely important. If the mind doesn't have a clarity, like what am I doing and how I'm doing it, it will just be adding up more cognitive load and will not be able actually to perform. So we'll be in our mind and not be able to really perform what we actually have in our head. That's why clarity matters so much. Immediate feedback is when we are in an environment. For example, my example of why I also love rafting. When I am in this boat rafting, the immediate feedback I have all the time from the environment itself. It gives me all the time feedback where how I'm performing, how is my position, is it right, is it wrong, how is the intensity. This is hugely important. Immediate feedback matters also very much when we are working together. To provide feedback to someone is hugely important, that he knows actually how am I doing. Am I overperforming, underperforming? How is my skill? Because we human beings have a kind of inward bias. We don't see ourselves so well from outside. We need the feedback from others. We talked also already about the transformation of time. And the experience is intrinsically rewarding. We don't in flow, and I will later talk also about the so-called autotelic personality. In flow, we have an intrinsic reward. We do what we do for its own sake. We don't do it because we want someone to see us. We want more money. We want more fame. That's actually a trait of a non-autotelic personality. An autotelic personality doesn't rely on those things and is able to flow more. Effortlessness, we talked already. A balance between challenge and skills. It matters very much. And I'm going to give you here an example of my book writing. I'm already writing my second book, but in the last one that I wanted also to publish, I wasn't able to perform like I did before. I was blocked. I couldn't write my book in this short amount of time. Why? Here was the reason. The challenge was too high. It was a totally new topic, and I wasn't prepared well enough. So my skills didn't meet the challenge, and I did not perform like I did perform before in book writing, being able to write a book within a weekend. Action and awareness are merged, losing sense of self. There is a feeling of control, and this is actually the paradox of control. Imagine a surfer. A surfer actually, when he's surfing a wave, he have a sense of control, but he doesn't have a sense of controlling the wave. No, it's much more that he has a sense of being one with the wave. He has a sense of control, but not over controlling. This would mean he would be too much in his head, too much of ego. And we already saw that this is actually against flow. So this was the part on what flow actually is. And I wanted, I dedicated really a bit more slides in that what flow is to help us then, like especially since I told you, please empty your cup so that I can fill knowledge in it, and you being able to reach more flow, and also understand what flow actually isn't. Because out there, if there is one thing about flow, if you ask 1,000 people about flow, what flow is, you will get 1,000 different answers. But this is not actually what flow is. If we would have 1,000 different answers and flow would really be all of this, we wouldn't be able to have intrapersonal flow. We wouldn't be able actually to flow in groups. We wouldn't be able to come together. And this is what flow also gives us, beside this individual flow. So since this part was very important to give you some clarity about what flow is, the next part of the journey will be about the how of flow. Because I hope that you are pumped actually to get to know how I can get there, how I can get more flow. And here's the answer. This is one of the most fundamental maps here that you need to know in order to perform more in flow. This is the so-called flow cycle. Flow is actually not a binary thing, like you are, it's like on, off. You're either in flow or you're not. We're human beings, we don't function in that way. Flow exists actually in a cycle of 4 phases. And to understand this better, I'm gonna give you an example of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci has a very beautiful anecdote in his life, where he, as he did share that with us. He mentioned a situation where he said the following: I was in my workshop and I wanted to create something. I ended up staring in a blank canvas for a long amount of time. And my ideas didn't come to me. So I decided to leave the situation. We don't know much, we don't know more here, what he did actually, but it's most probably that Leonardo da Vinci, as we know also from other researchers and scientists, that he went for example, for a walk. He was also famous, like many others. He went for a walk. And he continues, where he says, when I came back, my ideas started to flow my way again. So I'm gonna open here the mic quickly, and you please just putting in the space here, give the answer on the following question. What do you think? Which of the parts of the flow cycle Leonardo da Vinci did mention, and which one he didn't mention? Please, for 3 minutes, be disciplined and just give me some answers here. Open the mic and just shoot. Anyone? Just come forth. Doesn't matter. Most probably it will be wrong, but it doesn't matter.
Can I answer? Can I respond?
Please, just shoot. Thank you.
Okay, I believe he struggled, and then he went into recovery, and then he come back into flow mode. Maybe he skipped the release part.
Mm-hmm.
That's my own interpretation.
Thank you very much, May. Thank you. So someone else.
Yeah,
it was good. There was one part like missing.
I think.
Sorry. Go ahead, Sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he didn't mention a release part.
Okay, interesting. So you have the same opinion like May before, huh?
Yes.
Okay. So someone else?
Yes.
Another idea, please.
Yes. I think the opposite. I think he mentioned the release part.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I felt it. I feel that the flow happens. يعني also in the release part. يعني it is part of it.
Okay. Yeah. So that one is not fully right, but you are very good. That's true. So you would say he mentioned the struggle, the release, and the flow, but he didn't mention.
يعني يعني the statement that he said, he just explained that he both release and flow. because I see both as, now I can see them as one.
Okay, yes, of
I
course,
cannot
it's very
differentiate
fluid.
between the two. يعني these are two very overlap for me. يعني I cannot see the
Okay.
difference between release and flow.
I will come to that, of course. You need a bit more help from my side, but I'm also very glad you are helping me here to create this space to flow together. Thank you very much. We have here very active maids. That's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, please. One last, Sherry.
Maybe he didn't mention the flow. He did it already. It comes out. He has the release and struggle and everything, but the flow, it was done exactly with his work.
Okay, very interesting view. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me help you here. And our friend Leo, which by God, he is not an uncreative guy. He said the following: I was staring in a blank canvas for a long while and nothing happened. This is struggle. I decided to leave the situation. So he took time to let go. That's the release. When he came back, he said, my ideas fly my way again. That was the flow. Of course, he didn't have actually the science that we have here, but he was intuitively doing everything right to drop into flow. And the one thing that he actually didn't mention in this anecdote, of course, he didn't have the science, he didn't mention, but I'm sure he was also recovering. And that's very important. After flow, we need to recover in order to enter the flow cycle again. So let me give you a bit more clarity about the flow cycle. And this is the single most important thing to know about flow. If you take this with you today, it will be enough to have more flow in life. And behind it, by the way, is decades and decades of research. It's only seemingly simple. This is the packed version. We have an unpacked version, which is much bigger. Okay, so flow is always working in that way. In the beginning, we always struggle. That's just normal. It's not possible otherwise. Why? We are in a brain state that doesn't, and this is important here to consider. We are in a brain state that doesn't support flow. And we are also in a metabolic state that doesn't support flow. Cortisol, norepinephrine, stress, totally normal. When for example, when I'm rafting, or anyone, just imagine an activity that you do and you drop into flow and you experience this stare and all what I mentioned before. In the beginning, it's just not smooth, right? It takes some time. And here you see also why. Here you see also the reason why it is not right to call the people, actually the extreme sports athletes, to call them adrenaline junkies, because it's just unscientific. It's totally nonsense. So when we go further, we actually then release, and this is what our friend Leo was doing. He was releasing. And here is why it matters so much. By releasing, we change our brain state to an alpha, which is more a kind of daydream mode. In meditation, we also find ourselves in this alpha brain state. And here's something very, very significant what happened in this release. And that's the reason why it's not possible actually to jump from struggle to flow directly. It's not possible. We always go that way here. The nitric oxide is a gas that flushes out all the stress chemicals in our body. Now, just now, we are ready for flow. The system is ready for flow. This is a security mechanism. You might imagine, if you would flow actually with so much flow, with so much friction in your system, this would be damaging. And here you see also why people in extreme sports, me including, when I'm rafting, I'm actually not like under adrenaline. I don't feel that way. No, when I am rafting, I feel totally calm. There is no stress. And I'm fully here, fully awake, fully in the deep now, because I experience flow. And the brain waves here, I experience flow with the most potent chemical, a bunch of chemicals that we have. It's a cocktail from inside. We have in the same time, we have dopamine, endorphins, anandamide, and much more, 6 or 7 chemicals that are known now. If you would inject them from outside, we would die. But because it's generated from inside, that's the reason why I'm also talking about an intrinsic peak performance. We feel calm in flow, and we have also this synchronicity in mind and feeling, cognition and emotion, because of the very special state we have. In the same time, we have a gamma and a theta brain waves, a state of this blend. It's very uncommon. Theta is mostly happening when we are dreaming. That theta happen. Gamma is something that is like is higher than beta. Is a very special state. So here you see why after flow we also have to recover. Flow is a peak performance state. Everything that goes up have to come down. If we go too high, we will just drop very low. We have to recover. In recovery, delta brainwaves, so like either sleeping or really having a recovery. It might be meditation. Best is always active recovery. Active recovery is not like passive recovery. Sitting, doing nothing is not an active recovery. It might be like good, but it's very costly for us. Sitting, eating chips, or especially sitting afterwards and scrolling news, it's just very costly as a recovery. This is passive recovery. Active recovery is napping, going again for a walk. This might work, especially if we don't flow too high. Have even meditation, or just take a bit more time off here. Let me go a bit here in depth. I think you already might find yourself, and might find also the reason why you are actually not flowing sometimes. It's because you find yourself too much in struggle, and you don't break through, and you don't initiate a release phase. That's hugely important, like Leonardo da Vinci did. In the struggle phase, we have also pitfalls in all those phases. Let me unpack the whole thing a bit. What is the pitfall in the struggle phase? We have on one side, we have the we have the bliss junkie. The bliss junkie is someone who has the attitude, if I have to struggle, I don't want to do it anyway. So it's a bit like if I have to, flow has to find me. I don't want to go there. I don't want to struggle at all. On the other side of this extreme, we have the hustler. The hustler is the one who is grinding, has the attitude, no pain, no gain. And he just wants to struggle more. But he actually foreseeing that the promised land actually is not here. He has to release and get into flow to the effortless effort. There is effort, what he wants actually, which doesn't feel like an effort. That's the pitfall here in the struggle phase. We have also to know that it is important to have a kind of release strategy. Everyone has its own, and I'm going to give you just today some suggestions what you might use for yourself in order to release more rapidly and effectively. We know why release is so important. There is no flow without release. But what is the pitfall in the release phase? One of the pitfalls is actually releasing too late. Okay, we struggle just too long, not initiating the release phase. Another one is insufficient or ineffective release. What is that? If we start one activity, let me come back to my example of the book writing. I start book writing, and of course in the beginning I will struggle. It will be just difficult. It's not so smooth. I don't find the right words. Okay, then eventually I will break through, and before I drop into flow, I will go for a walk or whatever. Taking a shower, for example, it's also a huge one. Meditation for release is a very good one also. What is the pitfall? If I would come back, the pitfall is me doing in between scrolling on my phone, checking Facebook, not continuing with the same activity that I started the flow cycle. That's one of the pitfalls here, which is based on the problem if we add cognitive load. It's just novel information, too much new information. What does that cause? It causes us just to stay in the head, because our head cannot not process. We don't need new information. We just need to release with the same activity in order to drop into flow. We want this effortless effort. We want to perform in flow. So this is for the release phase. In the flow, interesting enough, we have also pitfalls. You might ask, what's the pitfall in flow? The pitfall in flow is to flow too high. This means to exert all the good feeling chemicals. Like flowing too long. The better way is to practice what we call a peak flow exit. And there is the magic. Because the idea is to undergo one cycle within 90 to 120 minutes. Because that's a very natural cycle for us human beings. When we are sleeping, we also undergo these changes from different states in sleep, also in 90-minute cycles. In flow, this is actually very helpful. We use the same principle. And we want to have a flow block, have a practice of peak flow exit, recover rapidly, have a short break, and then being ready. Still, we have plenty good feeling chemicals for the day. We enter recovered the flow cycle again, of course, through struggle. We are already pumped for the same activity. We will struggle gracefully, not too much, and not like the bliss chunky. Release, breakthrough, release rapidly. Don't fall in the pitfall, and find ourselves in flow again. And do it over and over again until we reach 3 to 4 flow blocks. And that's actually huge. 2 flow blocks is good. 3 flow blocks a day is very good. 4 flow blocks is excellent. And I'm providing you here knowledge, which will take some time, of course, how you can actually practice to get and embody the art of flow. So this is for the what of flow and knowing, the how of flow and knowing the flow cycle. What is also very important to mention is actually to make the whole thing complete. The art of flow is to talk about the so-called flow blockers. And then I have also one last piece, which will finalize the whole thing to make flow, to make us able to drop into flow like on demand, by design. And not like some people are talking about flow. Flow. When I was talking, I'm a triathlete. When I was talking to some runners, they were telling me about this so-called runner's high. That's nothing else than flow in running. When you find yourself in this runner's high, in this flow state while running, this is a state where you just run and you can't stop. You feel like you're running on clouds. Effortless effort. And you just run and run. You don't feel exhausted, and you feel actually a great joy. Why? Because in the flow state, the body is repairing itself. Very interesting. Very interesting also to mention. So, and they are telling me like, the runner's high, this is something that you actually, you have to be lucky. This is something that is so rare. They make it a kind of mystical thing that is so hidden. It is not at all. So by us knowing now how to flow based on the flow cycle, we need to know what to eliminate. And I really mean what I said, eliminate from our lives. And those are the flow blockers. We have 10 of them. Most probably there are more. But right now, based on research, we have identified 10 of them. And the flow blockers you can imagine as the following. Like take the example of you being a Lamborghini. If you are the Lamborghini, but you find yourself in a traffic with so many and so many roadblocks, you can forget your Lamborghini. You need to unblock before you want to practice actually a flowy life and the art of flow. And then also add the so-called flow triggers, which I will talk in the next phase about. Just quickly, and I'm inviting you here, like to do this for yourself. Rate yourself from 1 to 10. How much you resonate with each of the following statements on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is resonate with the statement, resonate least with, and 10 resonates most with. Let's go through them, and you just write down the number. Mindset is like, I don't believe I can do what I know I need to do. I'm not good enough. That will block you from flow. You won't even pass the starting line with this without changing this mindset. So rate yourself for that, and please be here intuitive. If you want, use even the duple before you actually do the exercise. And just don't read here on the slides. Just listen to me. Close even your eyes. Just open for noticing the number. To note the rate. I will read for you. So mindset was the first one. Second one is distraction. We talked that this is so detrimental for flow, but also for our health. And the statement here is, I'm constantly distracted and it's blocking me from flow. So many things in so many directions. Flow follows focus. Distraction destroys flow. Rate yourself from 1 to 10. Burnout. I hope you're not there, and also not on the way there. But this is a very common one. Burnout, I feel totally fried, cynical and exhausted. The idea of continuing work is painful to bear. Just rate yourself from 1 to 10. 1, again, resonate least with. 10, resonate most with. Exhaustion. I'm wrecked. My focus is shot and I constantly feel the need to nap. Rate yourself from 1 to 10. 5 is overwhelmed. I've got too much on my plate. I'm juggling balls and can't keep up. That's also very detrimental for flow and health. Clarity. I don't know where I'm going or what my next steps are. Like, what do I need to do and how I need to do it? That's clarity. Rate yourself from 1 to 10. And please, again, do it intuitively. What comes from the first that comes to you is most probably the right one. Motivation. I feel okay physically, but I just don't really feel like doing what I know I should be doing. There is not enough intrinsic motivation. Rate yourself from 1 to 10. So 3 left. Time. I'm so stuck for time. No matter how fast I move, I can't get it all done. It's like about time management skills. And even overwhelming yourself. So that was time. We have 2 left. Stress. I'm either underwhelmed with how much simulation there is and feel bored, or I'm overstressed and don't feel like I can cope with what's in front of me. That's stress. Rate yourself from 1 to 10. And self-sabotage is the last one. I just keep getting in my own way and throwing myself off track. Rate yourself also here from 1 to 10. Of course, we cannot go here in depth, like how to resolve all those, but awareness alone is curative. And if you have, like, first look at your score. If you have something above 5, then you need really to work on. If you have something above 8, that's a red zone. That's a priority that you need to work on immediately in order to have more flow. And of course, also for your health, by the way. If you have more than 2, rated yourself over 5 and 8, then you know, of course, how important it is to work on that. And you know also the reason why you will just be all the time in the struggle phase. It's just not possible with these flow blockers actually to release and flow. you will constantly like you will try to release. You might release a bit. You might even flow in a micro flow state, which is so insignificant. It's insignificant. We don't consider that sometimes as flow, and you will just fall back. You will reset the whole flow cycle again, and be constantly in the struggle phase in one way or another. And here again, awareness alone is curative. Of course, if you want us to help you or to work on that, please reach out to Natasha, and we can find a way actually to help you to eliminate the flow blockers. So enough from them. Let's talk about the last missing piece here, and this is the so-called triggers. On one side, we have the flow blockers, which is very important to eliminate. And then we'll perform on the flow cycle. By the way, you cannot be outside of the flow cycle. You are always somewhere in the flow cycle, always. And knowing that, it's also like you have an orientation how to flow in your life, and also how to use the flow triggers. Flow triggers is the opposite of the flow blockers. The flow triggers, they help us to initiate flow, to go easier through the struggle and the release phase, to experience a so-called macro flow. The more triggers they are, the more the higher the quality of flow is. And I can give you here, of course, in the show presentation, as you know, it's a whole science and art of flow. I can just give you here the chart, and I can just list them here. Individual triggers. Well, let's just go quickly through them. Curiosity, passion, purpose. It's a flow trigger. Autonomy, complete concentration. We know that already. Risk. Why this is also a flow trigger. Novelty. Novel ideas can be actually great, but not during the release phase. Complexity, very interesting. Complexity is also a flow trigger. Me finding myself in rafting, this is a very complex environment. And it's also an unpredictable environment. Those are all flow triggers. Deep embodiment, when I'm doing something with my body actively. Don't forget, please, synchronicity of emotion, cognition, and action. Deep embodiment. Immediate feedbacks, we talked already about. Clear goals. They are a flow trigger. Once you know what you have to do, you will find yourself just dropping into flow. We talked about the scale between challenge and skills, the ratio, the right ratio. And last but not least, in the individuals, the creativity or the pattern recognition. Our brains work with pattern. And when we find somewhere patterns, you'll find yourself also like your brain just performing and just running and connecting the dots. This is the pattern recognition. Let me give you here like one example how you actually can implement the so-called VUCA trigger. VUCA stands for the complexity of the world that we are living in today. Stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That's the world that we find ourselves today in. A very complex environment. As you know, complexity is a flow trigger, but too much complexity is counterproductive. How we can actually use that? We use it in that way. It's very wise to have in your private life to live an essential a life of simplicity in order to be able, not overwhelmed when you go out, to use the outer world as a flow trigger. And just be ready, not exhausted, not overwhelmed, not distracted, ready to perform when you go out. That's like a very, very simple one. Of course, it's simple but not easy. The group triggers, I will mention them at the end. So the last piece here that I want actually to cover before I close here is the so-called autotelic personality, or the so-called the who of flow. What is that? Is there a flow personality? Is there a personality that is inherently flowing like most of the times? That's what we actually want. Yes, there are people, and they are called the autotelic personalities, and they have the following traits. So you can rate also yourself, like from 1 to 10. How high is actually your curiosity that you have from your childhood? That's so important here. How is your persistence in life? Do you follow through? Have the discipline? High independence. A flow personality needs to have a control over their life. High independence, agency. But also, so interesting, that's a key. An autotelic personality is also low self-centered, because too much self-centeredness will block us from flow. And also, and here you see a kind of paradox between all those: high independence, low self-centeredness, but high collaborative tendencies. Those are the traits of a flow-prone personality. And here is just a cycle of how a non-autotelic and an autotelic personality is actually performing. Quickly, you will recognize here, like the non-autotelic personality recognizes a challenge, anticipate failure, engage in the activity, but with too much self, too much ego, which inhibits flow, experience failure, thus stress, and has a reflection of diminished self or skill, results in avoidance, and also just being trapped all the time here in this cycle, till this personality breaks through for whatever reason. Let's look now at the autotelic personality. On the other hand, the autotelic personality recognizes the challenge, anticipates success, not failure, engage in activity, and enter flow. Of course, struggle gracefully, follow through, respect the flow cycle, do actually also decompose and structure the tasks, needs clarity, that's very important, has a plan and perform, complete under focus on task, like no distraction, and that's a skill, it's a capacity to really follow through. Of course, success is inevitable, like flow is inevitable. If we follow the flow cycle, we struggle gracefully, we release rapidly, effectively, we will inevitably drop into flow. The same here. And this will result in self-efficacy and a positive effect, which is just reinforcing itself. That was a very important thing here I wanted to share with you, actually, which is very helpful to know more about flow and the so-called flow personality. The last two things here I want to share with you, and this is, I talked already about an environment where we find flow on demand, we find so much flow above average. And the question is, why here? I talked also about Silicon Valley. Why in Silicon Valley we find actually so much flow and so much innovation? Here's the reason. You might already recognize them. Those are the flow triggers. All those flow triggers you will find in those environments, and they are therefore very innovative. They seem to be like from another world. But here's the reason. There is novelty, there is complexity, unpredictability, risks. So many startups start there. Many of them fail. Some of them become unicorns. Passion, of course. They have a clear, dedicated focus on goals, have feedback. It's also special culture. It's not like what they are doing is actually in which environment they are doing it. It's a culture. Like also the reason why we have more records, like the records broken in the extreme sports arena are exponential, while we find in the usual sports, professional sports, we don't find the same curve. It's also because in professional sports we have some flow blockers, not enough flow triggers, and also it's a different culture. The culture is also what contributes to more flow. And to close all the loops and the session today for the Q&A, I have a call for you. In the beginning, I started with an invitation. I have a call. I want to call you to be a group flow catalyst, to improve your relationships using flow, and to use flow for contribution. I started with the statement that the future is faster than we think. And it's so fast that it's actually taking our breaths. If not, we haven't really grasped the situation. We can use flow to actually bring out and show up at our best. And because I'm speaking here in a community that understands this, in order to show up, we need, this means contributing to this new environment, to this very disrupting time. It will need all of us to show up at our bests. But in order to show up at our best, we need to clean up. We need to wake up, to grow up in order to show up at our best, and also dedicate our capabilities and share with the world that unique ability, unique gift that each one of you has. And if you don't share it with the world today, it will be lacking, and someone later has to replace that with some detriment. That's my call to you. That's the last slide. And here is how you can become a group flow catalyst. You can Google those. Just Google flow triggers. You will find endless information, and look at the group triggers or the social triggers. I can just emphasize close listening as well for group flow, and for collaborating together. Collaborating together, and for relationships. Have an open communication. Have a yes and communication. of course, complete concentration is hugely important, but having shared goals and shared risks in a project, in an environment, to build this culture as we have seen on the culture, on the innovation culture of Silicon Valley. So that was my presentation for today. I'm sorry if I did go a bit over time, but we also started a bit late. We have also some time for the Q&A.
Thank you,
I hope so.
Malik, very much. I'm sure that if people could open their mics and clap, we would do that. It was really impressive and very, very informative. We were writing a lot and we were just drinking information. Thank you very much. The floor to you yet still with the questions. So please, guys, use the situation and let's know more. You can raise your hands and I will be watching it. So Malik,
yes, please, Natasha,
yes.
just do that.
And with your hands, and that would be better even. That would be priority, whoever is asking question. And if you write, that is less priority if you write it on the chat, okay? Huda, please unmute yourself and go on with your question.
Hi, Nata. Hi, Malik.
Hello, Nata.
Thank you so much for the amazing lecture. It was beautiful.
Thank you very much. Did I actually name you right, Nata? You are also
No,
Nata?
I'm Huda.
Ah, sorry. Okay, yeah, that's why my question. Huda,
Yeah.
hello, welcome.
How are you? I wanted to ask you, is there a difference between the flow on a mental level and a heart level, or are they the same thing?
No, flow actually doesn't work that way. Flow is where we feel our best and perform our best in the same time. It's a synchronicity. We have this fluid thinking in flow. Yeah, really flow. It's a flowy thinking. And we feel actually great because we are as human beings, we are not thinking machines that feel. It's the other way around. We are feeling machines that think. And that's more important than even the thinking. Where we feel our best always is not possible actually to flow if you don't feel what.
Okay.
With your mind.
So it's like the synchronicity between the heart and the mind and the body.
Yes.
Do you need that? Okay.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Malik.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Huda. Thank you, Malik. And May Rami, would you please go with your question?
Thank you. I would like to thank you so much, Malik, for this wonderful session. It's such an insightful and meaningful one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, May.
Thank you. So regarding the flow personality, I just wanted to ask, does it have to be related to Carol Dweck's theory related to the growth and fixed mindset? So that autotelic personality has to do something with the growth mindset and building resilience and the neuroplasticity of the brain. And the other type of personality with those people who have fears or are afraid of doing challenging stuff or stepping out of their comfort zone and following that kind of pattern in their lives, or there is it's not that correlation that is here between this concept and the other theory.
Thank you, May. Thank you for bringing this forth. That's actually very important. Carol Dweck and her very, very interesting, very important work of her mindset is hugely important and contributing to flow. So basically, I can say there is a huge correlation between mindset and flow. If you don't have the right mindset, means, to speak in her terms, a growth mindset, you won't be able even to pass the starting line.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be like constantly in the struggle, fear, being retreating, not breaking through, doesn't have any direction, and constantly blocking and self-sabotaging yourself.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, well, if I did answer your question.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ahmed Salah, would you please unmute yourself for the question?
Yes, hi everyone. Hi Malik, thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you, Ahmed. Hello.
I work with sports athletes as well. So I face this flow. I maybe mention it in every session because we focus on helping the athletes to reach this flow in their games and their events. So you talked about anticipating success versus anticipating failure. And I'm curious, how can athletes or anyone else anticipate success without getting attached to the outcome? You know, they should be focusing on the process, not the outcomes, because if they faced any difficulties within the game, that threatens their outcome, their win, eventually. They may get distracted because they are focusing on the success or anticipating success somehow. So how can get to this balance between anticipating success and not getting attached to it somehow? And I have another small question. If you're a breathing trainer, how much can you hold your breath? That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So to come back to your first question, so your question was that, do I work with athletes? Yes, I do. And me myself, I'm a triathlete. Constantly find myself there. I can see of what we are doing actually with the athletes and how athletes can use flow for, I would say, like really, an athlete has to be aware of his failure and his success, I would say, in the same time. This is not a contradiction, actually. And being able to deal with that during I don't know if it is like in let's take an individual athlete, a runner, for example. He might be tired. He might be like I don't know. He might had a fight with his wife the day before. This can all affect actually his performance. He needs to have this resilience to put this aside, and also being able, this all happen like in the struggle phase. But if an athlete is aware of the flow, once in flow, this all doesn't matter. As we stated also, in flow, you are like in this tunnel-like state. You feel your best and you perform your best, independent from the environment. And you have this autotelic personality because you are. Here's another tip, like detach from the outcome and love the activity. The question, why are those athletes doing these sports? Why they started? It's hugely important. Are they still enjoying this sport, or it's more like a burden? That's also a reason why sometimes it's not so good to turn your hobby into a profession, because then it might be a burden. But professional athletes have to be able to carry this burden, which is not easy, and are in this challenge really to still stay in love with the sport itself that they are doing, independent from all things that happen then in their lives. that's like on quickly, because so to elaborate on that, actually mindset work, what you mentioned here, this is something that that can go over sessions, to work with an athlete and all the reasons why he might, for example, blocking himself, not seeing himself good enough, and many other reasons why he's actually not performing on this level. So many, actually, so many factors are there. Need to know a bit more, but so this is what I could give you for now on that. To come back to your question about the breath, I hold my breath like for more than 6 minutes. So this needs, like, of course, the breath work is like any other skill. You train that, and you have there also like this high performance, like any athlete, actually, they achieve very high skills, or any other artist actually who is performing any other art, he just have high skills in that. So this is for that. I have also to say that maybe you were referring to the record of Stig Severinsen. He did hold his breath for 22 minutes, but this was with a kind of with a gas aid. He himself, without this aid, he can hold his breath like for more than 13 minutes, I think. 13 minutes. This is really, yeah, very high. Very high. Superhuman. And by the way, we all have this capability. We just need to actualize that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, we need the flow in anything we do, either it's teaching, psychological coaching sessions, or just talk to our kids. Thank you very much. Yeah. Good news. Would you please come in?
Yes, thank you very much. Hello. It's been a long time. And I'm filled with gratitude for the presentation that we have received. Flow has always been on my sights, and it's always been an issue for me as a coach. Mm-hmm. And sort of my question is more of a statement, but a question built into it. Mm-hmm. That when after I finished listening to you, I thought that, oh, maybe the flow in me has to recognize the flow in you for us to have intra-group kind of flow. Because if I don't have the flow and I don't recognize the flow in you, it becomes a little bit difficult for us to flow as a group or team. So can you please just explain how we can make sure that that intimacy and the glue that needs to exist between the team members, and also the glue that needs to exist between the faculties within me, are essential to this personal and intra-group kind of flow?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Good news. That's actually beautiful. You mentioning like that you feel grateful for that, and that this also like intrigued some questions in you. I'm especially also grateful that you asked really about the group flow, because that's really my big passion. I see that human beings, we like group flow, but I would say also on an individual level, we like more group. We like individual flow, but human beings prefer group flow. It's not only the Navy SEALs. And you might also like ask from this Ubuntu perspective, we can help someone. This is called like maybe one effect in psychology that might help someone else. Me helping someone to flow better is the Pygmalion effect, that you might be familiar with. When I'm anticipating that someone is better than he usually is, this is one way how I can help someone to flow better. And then when he is in this state, I will have, like, of course, he will take me also. And it will just exacerbate this whole thing, because it's a very special, very fluid dynamic, intrapersonally, much more delicate to swarm together. And it's really a swarming together. It's much more delicate, but I would say it's more of cultivating a space inside, and in the same time a space outside, where we can flow as the group. We need to have empathy. It's not working without, because without close listening, we will just not be able to flow together. It's impossible. Without having a yes and culture, if you're living in a culture where the communication is the following, like, yes, I see what you want to say, but, and then he have a counter argument, or he says constantly no, that's going to be very difficult actually to flow. The idea is to have a yes, no, yes communication. It's a special technique in communication that's very helpful. Of course, we don't want to say to everything yes. Okay, we might disagree in certain things, but we find the bigger frame where we have a common ground, and then flow on that. That's very important. It's a culture that we build together. Something also that I actually we didn't have time, like, but you're asking now. It's also very important to have a kind of familiarity between each other, in order to really flow, not on short term and sometimes, but really as a group, to flow, to swarm together. I love to call it to swarm together. Beside all what I mentioned, we need to have also, like, a familiarity between each other. I need to know the flaws of the other and to accept the flaws of the other, and he needs to know mine. Like doing somehow a bit a soul striptease, yeah, if I might call it that way. They will really know about each other things that usually outside of the group no one knows, and we do actually get along with all those flaws to flow. One last thing, which is really also important, and it makes the group flow delicate, is having, if in one group the difference between the skills is too high, that's just gonna be very difficult for the cohesion in the group, especially if we want to perform, like, in longer projects, like long term. That's also very, very important. But since you're a coach, please use those. You can help the team also with the Enneagram, by the way. The Enneagram is actually a great tool where people can get to know like the dark side and the bright side of each other, and know how to deal with them flexibly. So to foster, really, then it's one tool. You need much more, like to really foster a team where they will then where they will swarm together. And once you have that, that's the reason why we love, as human beings, we love group flow, and why I'm passionate about this bonding that is actually happening. It's not a connection. We human beings, we are not meant to connect. We are meant to bond. This bond is surviving any catastrophe, natural or an atomic bomb. It's surviving like almost everything.
Great.
So I hope I answered your question on that.
Thank you. That was very, very nice. Yeah, some individual triggers were actually talking to the Enneagram types, could be very much some connection to the Enneagram, yet it's still discover. There are two questions that were here, hands, and I will go in the order they appeared. So the first one was from May, and then Mukhtar Zohi also. I'm sorry for distraction.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. Well, my question, you mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that we can maximize our productivity with the flow, in the flow.
So, sorry, can you please repeat that again? I didn't hear well.
At the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned maximizing or maybe more than doubling the productivity or the when you mentioned the experience of writing a book within two days or 1 week.
Right. Thank you. Yes, that's true.
This is one example, but if we are, if I'm working with a team in a project, and I find my question is it true or false that a group having a flow in a group needs to have sharing the goals in addition to sharing the same values. So in order to succeed within a group, it's not just my own flow. So there is a certain circumstance that needs to happen in order for the group to succeed in maximizing the productivity. If we are working on a project. So
okay, so your question is it by force that group flow happen, or
if I can see that this institution does not provide enough environment for a group to have a flow, so that you guarantee that the project will succeed in achieving the goals.
Okay.
You can, if you can perceive this, you can decide that to join this institution or not, based on this understanding. I mean.
Yeah.
So
I understand what I think I understand what you mean.
Sometimes if I have my own flows going like 50%, I can't put a percentage, but sometimes I can see that the work environment does not provide enough resources or enough help to have the group triggers to have a group flow, a flow within the group. So it's a very similar question to the other question for that was mentioned by Good News.
Something to it, and then you telling me like if this is what is actually answering your questions. So we talked about individual flow and group flow. They will not exclude each other. You can actually have, of course, like in an environment, you can have your individual flow that's hugely important. I mean, and you can have your own goals. But in order to have group flow, you need to have shared goals. What does that mean? You have your personal goals. You can have an overarching goal that brings all together. It's not a problem. The other thing is, if you are in an environment which is going against your values, it's going to be very hard actually to flow, especially in a group. There is a conflict. Yeah, this is going against, I mean, the communication will be very difficult. Familiarity is like already maybe broken, I don't know, with so different values, or just hard to overbridge, and it's too much effort.
Okay.
Yeah, then there needs to be some work.
So sometimes, actually, I've been through this before.
Culture, culture for that. It's necessary, like to have those elements. Those are like the minimum elements in order if you want to flow as a group. That's a decision also from the leadership.
Yes.
they need to actually provide this culture, and to and of course you mentioned like the flow blockers. Yeah, that's very important, like to eliminate those flow blockers from outside, but also what is going to block flow in the group, but also individually, is this, if there is this, as I understood, this conflict in values.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There were several questions before we go to the last question in person. There were questions about if the workshop will be available or more information where to get it. The information will be announced at the beginning of 2023 as a surprise. So stay tuned with the information. And there was the last question in person. Mukhtar, if you're still here, would you please unmute yourself? If it's possible, because I see, yep.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Malik, for your, which is a new topic or subject for me for the first time in my life. It's very positive trigger and a wonderful topic which opened my mind. My brief question is how to make balance and the control of peak high flow, the deep low flow wing, how to make a balance between to go high, then a deep low after that. I think is it clear the question, especially for those person of type 1 which have some characteristic of a perfectionist, and they take too much to see, they have inner criticism, and so they have a special time of, if they get into the deep flow, high flow, so they cannot control them to take rest and break enough to continue. So after the high, they find themselves facing the collapse. So how to make the balance by some techniques of self-discipline, how to make control theoretically and practically. And thank you very much.
So thank you, Mukhtar. Yeah, for your sharing, and I'm very pleased actually that this new topic was so intriguing to you. So if to come back to your question, if I understood right, about the type, if the type 1 has like bigger issues in struggling in order to get into flow, that was like one thing. Another one is like how to manage the peak and then the exit, if I understood right. It was like a twofold thing.
I can read it also because Mukhtar was writing it. How to make control of high peak flow and deep low flow winds, especially for a person of type 1. It seems the sound was cutting a little bit. So.
Okay. So overall, it's just like every other type here. The flow cycle is actually independent from culture, independent from personality, independent from environment where you find yourself in. Of course, it shouldn't be a flow blocking environment. Just by practicing the flow cycle and perform. I mean, in order to get more flow, you need to identify something which I didn't talk, and this is something that can help one and everyone else. Like identify the primary flow activity. and identify the secondary flow activity. The primary flow activity, for example, for me is rafting. When I'm rafting, as an example, I'm 95% 95% I will drop into flow because it's happened intuitively. I love it. And this will help me then also to perform better in my secondary flow activity, which is, for example, writing. I'm not an author. Okay, the more flow you get, the more flow you get. Identify, and here is also important to work. This is what a one can do, and all others. Go a bit in your biography. What were the flowy activities that you had in your youth, even in your childhood? They can go back to your childhood, and you stopped doing them. Maybe start doing them again. That's usually important. It will help you to flow more and intuitively, because also very important, to understand, we human beings, we are made for flow. We are designed for flow. It's something inbuilt. We just have to be aware of those principles, like the flow cycle, and just practice the flow cycle. That's like one thing that a one and all others can actually do to get more flow. In order to manage like this, that's already gonna help very much to quiet this inner critics, because when you are flowing, naturally the inner critic is shut down. And that's gonna also give you so much boost. That's the reason why so many people, they discover themselves in an activity. For example, I have a friend of mine. He was a very shy guy. He was like all the time he was in the shadow of the life. He discovered actually speaking for him, interestingly, as an introvert. And he started to practice that. So he found himself there. He found a kind of cure. He was flowing, and flow gives really a cure for that. And this helped him to turn over his whole life with this one activity, because he became a master. And he transferred all this confidence and skill set to the other areas of his life. So that's like one thing that you can do. If I did understood right, you talked also about peak flow and low flow.
Yes.
So low flow, that's actually something that we don't want. No, what we naturally want is a macro flow. This is what usually happens. Yeah. I mean, if we are really enjoying something, we really want, if we want to merge to become what we are doing, we don't want to be like a bit. We really want to be full to full merge. That's macro flow. That's important to mention. The other thing, how to manage peak flow exits. Oh, that's really that's a very good question, and needs much more skills. We need. It's very hard. It's very hard actually to practice a peak flow exit, because once you are in there, then to say, I want now to exit on a peak flow, that's so hard. We need to have really very good discipline with high self-awareness in order to do so. Ernest Hemingway was very famous actually for that. He was the one who was practicing that in the way when he was writing. He stopped writing. I mean, when you're fully in, it's something that you cannot let go of. But he did manage over time to stop writing within the sentence. But this needs practice. It was then for him much easier then next day or later to enter flow with this huge excitement. That's the beautiful thing. but this really needs very good discipline to achieve. But we're here for that.
But practice.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much.
Thank
We're
you.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Malik. Yeah, like is always said, and Khalid is saying, there is place for improvement, yet everything is perfect as it is. Yes, yes. Great day today, and the touch to the consciousness was really tremendous. I will be saying from everybody how much we appreciated the session today, Malik. Thank you so much for coming and be our guest. And yes, there were some other questions, yet time is ticking, and we would like you to rest as well, to be in your flow.
Yeah, thank you.
And stay tuned to all of you and be in the CA Club groups of the Consciousness Academy. And we are waiting for more meetings and be in the flow of consciousness. Thank you, everyone, very, very much. Yes, and with this, we will be finishing today's session with Malik Palamar. Thank you very much for your flow today.
So thank you very much, Natasha. Thank you, Khalid. Thank you all that came here. That was very, very lovely. You did really support. So you see, it was a successful experiment. We had like flow together. That's beautiful. Thank you. Let's continue that together. Khalid and Natasha, they will actually help us to continue this space together. Thank you very much.
Bye to all.
Bye, everyone.